All right, let's call to order this regular board meeting of Tuesday, June 11th. We are going to do a quick roll call. It feels really empty up here.
Sorry.
Take your time.
Trustee Khan. Here. Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Vice President Hopwood.
Here.
President Davidson.
Here.
And Trustee Rosenbaum is absent for the record.
And our condolences to Trustee Rosenbaum on the loss of his brother-in-law and all that his family is going through right now. Okay, we are going to move on. I will read our AUSD mission and vision statement. Hold on, I was not well prepared to do that. Should have been really ready. Okay. Thank you, Julie. The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student. Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind, while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees. Okay, we will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join if you would like to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, okay. There was no action taken in closed session, and we are going to move forward on the approval of our agenda. Anyone has any questions, comments on the agenda, or a motion? Let's do it.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our agenda is approved, and we will now take public comment for matters not on the agenda. If you are in our in-person audience, please come up to the podium. If you're in our virtual audience, please raise your hand. Okay, our first speaker, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Board. This evening, I would like to speak to you about the LCAP. I believe all parents would agree with me that safety comes first.
Oh, I'm sorry. The LCAP is an agenda item later this evening. Would you mind holding your comments until item 8B under review and discussion?
Okay.
Okay,
Will do. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
You want to use your 2 minutes for another comment on an item not on the agenda?
Maybe I will. Yeah, but I'll let someone else speak if they are in the waiting room.
Okay, just raise your hand again. We'll call on you. All right, next speaker. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you for hearing public comment before summer recess and over the summer. I hope that you worry, like I do, about our country's descent into fascism, and I hope you recognize your part in it. I'm going to read a statement. Today, we honor the memory of Edward Said, a Palestinian-American professor, author, and political activist. Said earned a doctorate in philosophy from Harvard University and became a professor at Columbia. Said earned many enemies for believing strongly in Palestinian liberation and noticed how often the narrative would change to fit the circumstance. In any violence against Israel, Palestinians were portrayed as terrorists. Yet Israeli attacks against Palestine were portrayed as justified, despite most of the violence being perpetrated by Israel. We recognize Edward Said for encouraging the world to think critically of their governing powers and for being brave enough to stand up for Palestine at a time when most of the world was not. Our club's leadership supports a free Palestine. So I read this statement because it is not, as admin has told students and teachers, anti-Semitic. To say so is reprehensible. It shows that the mere existence of Palestinians causes the admin of some schools to panic. So honestly, they should find another line of work. Furthermore, the board's silencing of the public on this issue shows a disturbing double standard. For just last month, people were rightfully allowed to express their feelings about Mr. Johnny leaving AMS, which is a personnel issue. But we weren't allowed to say a peep about Ms. Fritos. So I hope you are worried this summer about AMS's part in the country's descent into fascism and your role in upholding it. Ms. Fritos should not have been fired. Free Palestine.
Give a reminder that we do not discuss personnel issues in the district at board meetings. Next speaker. You'll have 2 minutes. Randolph Martinez, are you hoping to speak? Are you hoping to speak? For some reason, it keeps,
Yeah,
now we're good. For some reason, it kept turning it off on you. I apologize for that.
okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what was going on. Sorry, can we start the time again, please? All right, tell me when to go.
Okay. You can start.
Okay, thank you. I'm here because I have come to you and to talk about identity of Latinos. There was back in this school year, I gave you a petition that 11 Latinos signed, which was, "Dear Albany Unified School District leadership, we respectfully ask that you teach and promote Spanish in a culturally linguistic, responsible manner. While we respect all those who prefer to be called Latinx, the majority of our community identifies as Latinos. Therefore, we kindly ask that you include the term Latinos as a way to refer to our community as a whole as well. We appreciate your support." The reason why I come to you is because in your in your mission, it says addressing the individual need, find common things in order to move forward and not to sacrifice each other's belief. Also, I heard Deb Brill, executive directors, talk about inclusivity and diversity in our schools. And when I raised this concern and to not to substitute, but to add the word, I was met with a lot of pushback. And one of those was the teacher. I have felt that through this time I've been outcasted, singled out, and basically all the work that I've been doing with the district, it was just basically thank you, but it wasn't significant enough to help me and to move forward together. I tell you, as a veteran, I have fought for every one of you's rights out in war. And I can't tell you, unless you fight for someone that is so different from you, you'll never have diversity and inclusion. So
Thank
please,
you for your comment.
I just ask you to please keep an open mind and help me out.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, seeing no further comment in person or online, we are going to move on to approval of our consent calendar. So if anyone has questions or items that they'd like to pull from the consent calendar, please do so now. Otherwise, we'll look for a motion.
I move to approve the consent calendar as is.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty. We are going to move on to our review and discussion of Proposition 28, Arts and Music in School Funding Plan. This is a review and discussion item for this evening. And I'm assuming we're Handing this over to Assistant Superintendent Tian Shin.
Good evening, President Davison. Can you see me?
We've got quite an echo. I don't know. Go ahead, we'll see.
Thank you for allowing me to present virtually tonight. I am not feeling well and I didn't want to get anyone sick, so I am presenting from the next room.
We appreciate that and hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll wait for the presentation to come up. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, good evening, Board Trustees, Superintendent Evans, District Leadership Team, Albany educators and community. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share information about the Proposition 28 Arts and Music in Schools funding. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that the timing of this presentation and survey was challenging and led to some angst among our community. That was definitely not our intent. And as district leaders, we are committed to a cycle of continuous improvement and plan to follow a better process moving forward. With that being said, we are pleased to see that there is alignment of the survey responses to the school site proposals, which seem to indicate that informal discussions had taken place between our site leaders and staff, and they had a good pulse on their students' needs when it comes to arts education. And we will be able to see this tonight in this presentation. And again, despite the process, we appreciate our community's support to provide the best and most desirable arts education for our students. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The Prop 28 Arts and Music in Schools Act was passed by voters in November 2022 to provide ongoing annual funding for arts education in schools across California. The legislation allocates 1% of the K-12 Prop 98 funding from the prior fiscal year to school districts to expand existing arts and music education programs. This is a historic opportunity for California schools to provide additional high-quality, standards-based arts education to our students. Next slide, please. The legislatures envisioned arts education to include a multitude of disciplines such as dance, music, theater, visual arts, and media arts. And within each broad discipline, there are various types of arts that can be offered. Next slide, please. And of course, as with any state funding, there are requirements that we must adhere to, starting with what we can invest in. This funding can support the cost for instruction, training, supplies, materials, and partnerships. And most of the funding, at least 80%, has to be used to employ certificated and/or classified employees to provide the arts education instruction. And as we have learned from CBO Kim over the years, staffing cost is the greatest expenditure for providing any instruction. The legislation has also made clear that we are to supplement, not supplant, existing programs, meaning we must provide arts education and programming that is above and beyond what we are currently offering, regardless of the funding source. And it is up to each school community to determine what program best serves their students. Next slide, please. We recently conducted a survey with our staff to learn more about their recommendations for the best utilization of this funding. We received responses from all sites, and close to 100 respondents answered all questions. The survey asked open-ended questions, and all comments were welcomed. The word cloud that you see on this slide demonstrates the elementary staff responses based on the comments that were shared. The larger the word, the more times that response showed up on the survey. And as you can see, visual arts had the greatest response from elementary participants. Next slide, please. And here are the results from the different grade spans. Again, elementary showing the greatest preference for visual arts, then dance, and then theater. The numbers next to these categories do not add up to the total respondent number because each participant could write in as many or as little responses as they wanted. For our middle school, the frequent response was media arts, the sixth grade wheel, which are elective courses for sixth grade students to choose from during first period, and performing arts. For our high school, the most frequent responses were theater, media arts, dance, and supplies. And all schools expressed the need for qualified arts educators to deliver the instruction. Next slide, please. Our district was apportioned $472,954 to provide arts education in the 2024-25 school year, with each school receiving its allocated portion. Thus far, we have received 4 payments of $94,591, with 1 more payment to come to receive our full apportionment for the upcoming school year. At the same time, this apportionment may vary year to year based on our total enrollment as well as our under-resourced family enrollment. Next slide, please. The high school has a budget of $153,737, and they're proposing to utilize about $125,000 on personnel. They would like to add a section of dance and a section of orchestra to equal 0.4 certificated FTE staff. And they would like to add a combination of instructional assistants, accompanists, and instrument coaches to equal 1.0 instructional aid. Then they would like to invest the rest of the funding to purchase much-needed supplies for the various arts disciplines. And all of this additional investment in staffing will serve more than 300 students. Next slide, please. The middle school is allocated $108,995, and they're proposing to utilize about $91,000 on personnel. They would like to add a section of drama, art, and computers to the sixth grade elective wheel to provide broader choice for all students to participate in first period. And they would like to also add a choir accompanist, orchestra assistant to provide more support to the music program. And the remaining portion would go to purchasing supplies for the various arts disciplines. Next slide, please. The elementary schools have a budget of $211,991, and they are proposing to utilize about $190,000 for 1.4 certificated staff to provide art and dance instruction for first through third grade students during the prep period, with the remainder of the funding going towards supplies. Our preschool also received a small allocation of $4,776, and they would like to use this additional funding to expand the existing Healthy Me music and movement program, which is much desired and loved by our teachers and students at the preschool. Next slide, please. Lastly, these are questions on the form that the board must approve and be submitted to CDE. There are just 6 questions related to the number of staff we intend to add and the numbers of students and schools that additional staffing will serve, along with a brief program description. Unless the board provides another direction, I will aggregate the data from all of our schools that were presented in the earlier slides, complete this form, and bring it back to the June 18 board meeting for your approval. This concludes my presentation. Appreciate your engagement and support, and I will come out right now with my mask on to respond to questions and feedback.
I'll wait for Ann to come out. Thanks, Ann. Okay, I'll ask this first and Jackie's going to answer it while you get settled. So I'm just seeing that this says fiscal year 23-24, but the plan that was just presented is the plan for 24-25. So these questions are...
This funding is really supposed to be for 23-24 fiscal year. However, the state gave us the money recently, start giving us the district money, and also state suggests that district do not make any plans until 24-25 school year because of this funding gets delayed. But it is really funding for 23-24. So it's a little off the time line, but this is what the state provided, and the state also did not recommend to start this program until 24-25. So it's a little off.
Okay, so even though we didn't provide a program in 23-24 that matches what we're discussing here, we're going to submit the answers to these questions? I'm confused,
Because
sorry.
they were, unfortunately, recently with all of the promised monies, lots of the monies are coming late to the school districts. And obviously, we cannot start the program unless we have the money. They just sent the first payment in February, I believe, which is why they are recommending that we start the program in the new school year. And once we implement, we have 3 years to spend the money.
Okay. Any other board questions? Juliet says you're talking. I guess. Are we better? Okay. Oof. It's one thing to make you feel totally loopy. Okay. So it sounds like the high school and the middle school have pretty similar plans. And then the elementary schools are all going to kind of do the same thing. And my question just really quickly is, do we know the number of like minutes that each prep in our elementary school day gets? Like, do we give, because I know that the lower grades have, like first, second, third, when they had early bird, late bird, they had 60 minutes of PE a week or 30?
Yeah,
60, so 60 PE, which is our, trying to get to those required California minutes. And then library, 30 library? You're talking about 1 through 3. Yeah, 1 through 3, and then 30 music. Is that correct? Okay, and then that was it for 1 through 3. 4 or 5 had an extra 30 of science. 60 a week of science, two 30 minutes. Well, so 120 science minutes. Okay. Because I know my kid went twice a week to science. That's the only reason I know that. I don't know how long it was, but I know he went twice. 2 days a week. What'd you do at school? Well, I had science today. Okay. Okay, so I guess now we're going to add in to the 1 through 3, they're going to get how many minutes of this new art time? 60 of whatever this new art is. Yes. Okay. Cool. Anyone else?
I was just curious, parallel kind of comment about just how the decision was made to allocate the funds to visual arts. So I understand that that was a priority for elementaries. We've had a lot of community concern about lack of funding for music programs. We have advocates here this evening. Obviously, music was mentioned as something that there was an interest in. I'm just really curious about how the decision was made just to have the visual arts and not supplement perhaps the existing music program. If you could just spend a minute just telling us a bit more about that would be great.
Sure. Some of the district leadership team met with our site leaders, the 3 elementary principals, and really discussed with the elimination of the early bird, late bird, just how much more prep we would need to add and how we can leverage our Prop 28 funding along with general fund, of course, to make up all of the prep that we would now provide to our first through third grade teachers, and really discussed what would be the arts discipline that would be best for our students. And by our conversation, it really sounded like our principals had a pulse on what the staff would recommend. Sound like they've had some preliminary conversations, of course not a formal survey, but they really felt as though that those were the areas that their community would want to see, and as well as their own best judgment in terms of what would be best for their students. Understanding that we already have a music program, but we have absolutely no dance and no visual arts program at this time. They felt as though it would be best to now be able to offer all three disciplines.
Okay, so thanks for getting in there with that. I was like, I'll wait till public comment happens and then we'll have the grounds for the comment, but that's fine. We've received a lot of communication about this. So I guess my question is, if we looked at doing 45 minutes of music as a prep and 45 of art as a prep, was there consideration around that? I know we're saying, you know, it's 1.4 FTE for elementary schools district-wide. That still means we're hiring a full-time person and a part-time person, or 2.7s. You know, it's still kind of widgy how that works out. But I know that we're splitting those between the three sites, and we have all the scheduling to figure out and work out. So there's many layers to this. But you know, is that a discussion that could be had, or is that a discussion that was already had and then we landed and just said we can't manage it this year, and then maybe we need to consider that into the future? Or did we really have a lot of data that said we really want to hold with the 30 minutes of library, 30 minutes of music, and do an hour of the art, because that's what it takes?
At the time that the decision was made, I believe that the site leaders really felt as though they made the best decision based on the information that they had. I don't think that it's too late for any. So again, you saw the form that needs to be submitted to CD. It doesn't ask about subject area or anything like that. So that does not conflict with the amount of FTE we're going to get with that money will remain the same, 1.4. That's what we can afford with that money. And so no matter what discipline we decide to offer, that is what we're going to do. And that's what we'll report to the state, regardless of if we decided to pivot a little and say, rather than dance, we're going to do music. Again, that would be the site's decision. The legislation is very clear that this has to be a site community decision, not necessarily a district decision. At the same time, I really do believe that we came to that, sites came to that decision knowing what the staff really wanted and what would be best for our kids. Again, we already offer music at the elementary level as well as the middle and high school levels, and they are going to continue to robustly invest in that. And we think would be great to be able to provide learning in the other disciplines.
My question, I don't know if it's for you or for site principals, so I don't know where it falls, but I guess I'm a little, for the elementary schools, the visual arts, dance, and theater, I guess my question is really like, how are we deciding who, or which of those are students going to be enrolled in? Do students get a choice in this? Because I just, from a student perspective, like the likelihood of a student participating in a program that they don't want to be a part of is not going to be very high versus if they have the opportunity to pick something that they're interested in. So I'm just curious what that's actually going to look like as far as like student interest and their ability to participate in programs that they care about. Sorry.
So unfortunately, how prep works is students don't necessarily have a choice, right? So yes, it will be, at this point, visual arts and dance, and all students would be programmed into that.
So would we be giving all students will have access to visual arts and all students will have access to dance? Or are some,
In first through third.
how's that going to work?
So during the teacher prep period, the 1 hour extra that each first through third grade teachers will get, it will be some combination of visual arts and dance.
And dance with paintbrushes? Sorry, I don't understand. Like, I know how, I mean, I had first graders and are we hiring different teachers for this or one teacher who can do both?
Right.
Are they going to get part, it just doesn't, that doesn't quite make sense. Like, I thought we were going to do visual arts or dance.
Like you said, we have 1.4 FTE.
Okay.
So it's more than one teacher. So we would be hiring 2 teachers, one dance teacher, one visual arts teacher, and then we'd have to decide, is it full-time 1.0 visual arts and then 0.4 dance, or is it 0.8 of visual arts and 0.6 dance? So I don't believe that we've necessarily landed on that.
I'm just concerned that we can't meet the district-wide, like I don't know if we can meet all the preps that are required with doing 2 different things and everybody getting access to it. Like how is one dance teacher or one art teacher who's a partial FTE going to service every first through third grader in the district?
That is a scheduling issue, so depending on how the scheduling works out, some students may not get both. So it's really, again, we do have to first figure out what point FTE is going to go to dance and what point FTE is going to go to visual arts before we can work out the schedule and really figure out how many minutes of each of the disciplines the students would receive. We just know that we have 1.4 total that we can afford with this grant. And we're also going to need to have additional staffing, perhaps in another subject area like science, in order to provide all of the prep that we need to provide now for first through third.
Will not be covered by this.
Yes, which will.
Do not
exactly,
worry, we are not using
exactly.
Prop 28 funding to pay for science. We already cover science for the 4th and 5th graders. That's in our general fund budget.
Yes, yes.
I think, Dr. Evans, are you?
So I was going to say that, so one of the things that we had to do was post for these positions. We had to do that right away, and we did do that. And so the 1.4, to be clear, is to cover all the teachers that we have at the elementary level, 1 through 3.
Yes.
So I want to make sure, is that clear? Okay.
Yes.
So that's how we got the 1.4.
Yes.
So we're not quite sure at this point. It depends how it rolls out in terms of who will have what. But it is our goal that they will have a little bit of each, maybe not, let's say, everything visual arts. You know, it'll depend on the school, from what I'm hearing.
I guess I just start getting concerned here that now we're being like, well, this is what we're giving, but it's all kind of up in the air. It's just like, I don't,
It's actually just scheduling.
yeah.
It's just scheduling. You got to get the teachers first, and then it's just a matter of plugging in, because you got all these other preps to consider as well. And so it's just figuring out where you're going to put this time in a teacher's schedule. Mm-hmm. And so that piece it really depends on the school, actually. And I'm not sure if they have all that completed right now, but that's just more of a scheduling piece. That's not difficult. The biggest piece is hiring the teacher.
So talking about the 1.4, if we've already advertised for teachers, and we're talking about how we haven't yet allocated how much of that 1.4 will be for dance and how much for visual arts, how can we have advertised for positions that we don't know the FTE of? I mean, did we say a 0.7 for each, or a 1.0 and a 0.4, or how did we? I'm just curious. Or a range? Yeah, exactly. Have we done it as a range? I mean, is it, you know, I'm trying to figure out how we can match not knowing but having advertised.
I'm sorry, yeah, I wish our Human Resources Chief Officer, Marina Gonzalez, was here. I do know that both positions were posted, and I'm not sure
what FTE was posted with it.
I guess just adding on to what Vice President Hopwood had said, it's really concerning if we've already posted for positions and we don't even know how much we're going to allocate for either or both. And also, it kind of feels like we're trying to do too much with too little. And it worries me a little bit that we're extending ourselves thin when we can just kind of concentrate a little bit more on like one thing or another. That it just, yeah, I think this particular one, at least for the elementaries, I think we need to give it another thought before we finalize anything, really. Because if we don't even know if you know, this site's gonna have both, or this site's gonna have one or the other, or some kids are gonna have access to both and some kids are not, but they're at the same site, or like whatever it is, like it doesn't sound like we're doing it justice. Like that's, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's okay if we as a district make a decision and say, okay, first and second is only getting visual arts, but all third graders district-wide are getting dance and visual arts, or dance is going to this site. I mean, some sites do it through grants. You got dance for the first portion of the year, and then it went to another site for a portion of the year, and then another site for a portion of the year. And if that was kind of thought about and in the plan right now, I'd be like, okay, cool, we've figured out a solution. And I know a lot of this comes down to sites and their scheduling, but if a site and one person can't make sure that like they can give the same to all the kids at all the sites, then we're back in this, you know, inequity situation, which we try to avoid. But
And I can honestly say, every district is always in this situation when you're doing prep, and especially when you're adding new prep, because you don't even know what type of teachers you're going to be able to get. So you can advertise 1.4, but I'm not sure if you're going to find a teacher that can do like 1.0 or 0.8 or whatever. So I think just the 1.4, the way she advertised it is just, we know we can't go above that. And so even though we have it out there for a dance teacher and a visual arts person, the reality is you have to see what you're going to get. You don't always know. And that's the game that we play every year with all of our preps, especially when you're adding a new prep.
I just wanted to perhaps be the lone voice that is not super concerned about this. I don't think that our elementary school principals are going to maliciously decide to teach dance to only these people's classes or teach visual arts to only these people's classes. There are lots of decisions that happen at the school level that I have no part in, and I trust our principals and the structure that is in place in this town that I moved to specifically so my kids could go to these schools. I trust them enough to make certain decisions. I would be happy to have some sort of a reporting back at some point or some sort of a guideline, like each of the 3 schools have to offer, the same total minutes, or that we need to understand how they arrived at certain things. But I'm not concerned about how they posted the positions and whether or not they said it was going to be 0.8 and 0.6 or what. I have a little bit more faith in our school administrators at our elementary schools where I sent my kids that they are going to make this decision in a way that makes sense. So I just wanted to kind of add that to the conversation.
okay. No, I think we all agree fully with that. And we totally get that the schedules are up to the site administrators. That's their job, not our job. But I think what we're trying to get at here is just, if we could get, like Melissa said so beautifully, if we get a report back on just those parameters of, we're going to make sure that this happens, with some continuity across the 3 elementary sites, then the board can be like, cool, sounds good to us.
And we can get that to you. And I'm sure the principals can provide that to us in the beginning of the year. And we can bring that back to the board.
I think for me, it's more of a case of just understanding how we reached decisions about funding allocation, because obviously we've had some community concern, and so just trying to keep things transparent and being able to communicate it.
Okay. We have quite a bit of public comment lined up online for this, I think, and I know that we have some in here, so I'm going to go ahead and move to public comment, and then we can come back to the board for a couple more minutes here. This is our review and discussion. Just to remind everybody, we're not making a final decision, and as Ann showed us, the only thing that the board is actually responsible for is filling out that form up there, which does not dictate all of these details. That's a district decision that's made on the budget, and we're just responsible for this other portion. Okay, so if you're in person, come on up and I'll take the in-person comments first, and then we'll do our virtual comments.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Luna Sparks. The students call me Jingle Jeff. I'm an elementary music teacher. I want to first mention that no administrator this year ever came into my elementary classrooms, which I'm very sad, and I always invite them, but they never came. And so I want you to know that we teach dance in music class. We have dance units, we have square dancing, we have different kinds of dance. And also in PE, I'm also a PE teacher, PE is teaches dance also. So dance is included. Now, it was mentioned that music and the teachers, what the teachers' opinions were. Well, when the music teachers presented our presentation, we went to Dr. Wells and administrators, and we presented to them, and we were given a positive, we thought that it was going to go through. And we didn't present anything to the teachers. And I hear you saying, oh, well, we already have music. But what we said in our presentation is it's adding new elements to music. It's adding musical theater and performances, which we are qualified to teach and to do. And so theater was included in that. And we also wanted to collaborate with the teachers on academic subjects and presenting songs and more, and also with cultural activities. So it wasn't just more music, it was very specific elements in that presentation, which you all received. And so it isn't just more music, it's very specifically things we wanted to add, and we're very excited about it. And I just thought, oh, Prop 28, that's an answer to expanding music. And so I was so excited. I really like the idea of 45 minutes visual art and 45 minutes music because it's expanding a program that's established.
I think I want to put this in just in response to that. Could we, for the next meeting, get the FTE for our music teachers at the elementary level? I know Marina's not here tonight. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Shannon Huffaker. I just wanted to say a couple of things. I mean, the confusion around dance is definitely cropping up for the first time for me. And it did occur to me that I know my kids did a lot of dancing in PE in elementary school. And so how is the dance going to be different would be a question that I would ask if I was like wanting to make sure that they had something that was different. I don't think that how it's scheduled and any of that is what anyone here who wants to talk about music and the arts in the school is trying to get into how it's scheduled or who teaches what and when. I think that it's become clear to me that there was a plan. There was actually, these jobs were posted, it's my understanding that they were posted as a 1.0 visual arts and a 0.4 dance. Like it's not a open-ended number. Those are posted with numbers. And so I'm just being confronted again by what seems like slightly I don't know, doublespeak, or people are not really being clear. And there was a decision made without much input, granted by the principals, but there was a process that was presented initially to the community as a widespread feedback from the teachers, and I think we can see that that's not what happened because the survey was sort of rushed out at the last minute after people started asking questions. And so then tonight when we hear, oh, well, we're not really sure how much the dance is actually posted for, but it was posted for a number, and that number was known. And I just think that it's really frustrating as a parent to have been really engaged on this topic and to just keep hearing things that then turn out not to be true. And I would ask more of our administrators to just be clear. If this is a decision that you made, then say we made it without talking to anyone else. Don't act like this was a decision that the community weighed in on and that the teachers had a lot of a discussion about. That's obviously not what happened. And it's frustrating that we're not getting a straight answer. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, all. My name is Natasha Christofferson. The students know me as Miss Lucci, and I've been teaching art at Albany Middle School for 10 years. My son just graduated 5th grade at Cornell Elementary, and after 6 years, he left Cornell without having a single visual arts class taught by an arts instructor. Next year, he will have his very first art class with me. The lack of visual arts instruction at Albany Elementary Schools with a qualified individual is tragic. Many students come to me with little to no experience in visual self-expression, low confidence in artistic skills, and little to no exposure in using even the most basic art materials and tools. I want to echo what the speaker said during public comment at the last board meeting. There's been no transparency on how the Prop 28 money will be spent at the elementary level. I am deeply saddened that I have to compete against my colleagues in music education for scarce resources. And I love you guys, so please don't take this personally. It's hard to be up here saying this. I know how important music education is to our schools and our community. However, I cannot support the premise that Prop 28 funds should automatically go towards increasing capacity in the music program. I realize that Albany Music Fund works hard to supplement the pittance of support provided from the state, and I don't want to diminish the value that music education provides. But that well-established program does receive robust support at the elementary school level and does an excellent job providing elementary students access to music. When compared to the non-existent support for visual arts and performing arts at the elementary level, AUSD must consider applying the Prop 28 resources to staff and support other forms of creative thinking. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Michelle Brousseau, and I'm an AUSD parent and the president of the Albany Music Fund. I recognize that this has been a difficult year for the district, and I appreciate all the work you do for our schools. As a parent, I'm disappointed that parents were not included in the Prop 28 discussion by forming the recommended committees to distribute funding in a fair and transparent manner. As the Albany Music Fund president, I'm disappointed that the district has backed out of a long-standing promise that once we received more funding, the music program at the elementary school level would be a beneficiary. I asked to reconsider the plan and give the music program 45 minutes a week, and we could split that with the visual arts. We have a teacher on staff who's 80% who could convert to a full-time role. She wants to convert to a full-time role, and so I hope that this is a consideration, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comment. We're going to move to our online commenters. All right, you have 2 minutes. Dwayne, are you ready to speak? Okay, I'm guessing this isn't for this item. Okay. Next speaker.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry. I've been having difficulties on my computer, but I'm sorry. I'm going to ask if I can go back to the consent calendar after you go through this Proposition 28.
Unfortunately, we've already passed that item, so we won't take any more comment on that one.
Well, I want to let you know that Mr. Biggs,
Sorry,
the total amount.
thank you. Okay.
Hello, so I wanted to talk about the LCAP.
We're not on that item. We're not on that item yet. So that one's coming up next. So we just need to finish our Proposition 28. So do you want to lower your hand? And I'll definitely ask for public comment on the LCAP.
Then I would just, I would agree with the rest of the people that have come up and spoken. I think that this really needs to be addressed a little bit further. relying just on what principals have said, I think does a disservice. I think the community should have some more input, and we should make sure that all students receive like equal amounts of whatever you guys decide upon. I think that's important. And also that the special education children will be able to be included and accommodated, again, with whatever kind of, wherever you guys go with this. That is.
Okay, thank you for your comment. To the caller who is Roberta, I'm feeling like you may be on here with your iPhone and your iPad, so I'm just going to unmute and you can confirm really quickly. Let me know. Roberta, are you on here on 2 devices? Is this a different Roberta?
Hi, sorry. I have to turn this off. I've been having really, can I talk?
So we're taking public comment from new callers on the Prop 28 Arts and Music School funding plan.
Well, no, well, I tried to get through for the consent calendar and pull some items.
We don't allow the public to
But I
comment
want you
on
to
those.
understand this one.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. Next caller.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, my name is Hannah Levy. I am a parent to a rising second grader at Cornell, and I just joined Albany School Cares as a board member and a secretary that I'm going to be instituted in the coming school year. So I'm just getting my head around all of this, but one thing that I really want to express is a disappointment in the lack of parental consideration. Honestly, hearing from Jeff and Shannon here tonight was the first time that I was aware that decisions were being made about how to allocate funding, and to understand that there were strong recommendations that parents would be consulted disappoints me, in the fact that no surveys, no groups were created to better understand the needs of our students, what our students want, what the parents want, what families want. And so I really hope that parents and families will be considered when you make decisions, and that we could form groups. If elementary school groups are formed, I volunteer to help out. I know that we rely a lot on parental volunteers, and I'm familiar with that process. So just want to emphasize the importance of involving families in these decisions, so that we're meeting everyone's needs and getting voices heard across the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment as well. Okay. Seeing no further public comment on this item, we are going to move on to item 8B. Oh, do you want me to circle back? Unless there's more board comment up here.
I just wanted to make a quick comment to say that there's been some discussion, and I appreciate how Dr. Shin started her presentation by saying that we understand that there were flaws in the process with regard to this, and that there is an attempt to continue to try to improve, and recognizing the importance of that. That wasn't just lip service. That is actually how the district leadership feels and what the goal is. And I do appreciate the acknowledgement of this being a difficult year for leadership of the district, because it absolutely is. And I'll speak personally and just say that sometimes it is personally hard for me when I don't think that people understand how difficult it has been. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that I think that we have talked about when we are getting opinions and feedback from the various sites, the importance of using the school site council, I believe is the name, which automatically involves parents as well as teachers, administrators, et cetera. So that is something that has been discussed at the district leadership level, the importance of making sure that when we're doing these school site decisions, that those go to that body wherever possible, so that you're automatically ensured to get parent input, which we do and family input, which we do understand is very important.
We always rely on Trustee Boyd here to just say things so eloquently and succinctly. So, and Dr. Shin, we really appreciate you coming and presenting and being here when you're not feeling so well. So thank you for that. We're good? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna revisit it next week. There's some little adjustments. We'll get the FTE for our music elementary students and
Yeah, so I did, our human resource person, Marina, texted me and said that there were 2 positions posted. One, and they both were posted for 0.42 at 1.0, both of them. And then there was another question that you had asked me, President. What is the FTE for music teacher and teachers for elementary? And it was 1.36 for choral, 0.5 for band, and 0.3 musical theater. And it was approximately 2.2 total FTEs for elementary.
so, so across music, we have 2.2 FTE at the
2.2.
elementary. Okay, and that's all out of the general fund from the district. We should probably.
I'm not
confirm
sure what funding source. I can just tell you that it's 2.2 for elementary.
that. Okay. We'll have that at the,
I'm sorry?
It's for a lot of.
Fourth, yes, not 1 through 3. But she asked me for total elementary.
okay. For our next meeting, why don't we break that down just so we have a really clear understanding as a board and we're kind of just looking at this with all of the information. I want to just remind everyone again that the board's only responsibility is that form that's up there. So as long as we're getting that filled out in the general sense, then it's okay. But I think, you know, there's a little bit of conversation to be had on this and direction we can give. Okay, we are going to move forward to item 8B. Roberta, I hope, or Nicole, I hope you're ready, because now we're going to take your comment right after we have our presentation on the LCAP.
All right, thank you so much for this opportunity to present the 2024-25 school year local control accountability plan. Before I dive into the plan, I would like to begin by appreciating the district leadership team for their collaboration in the development of this plan and thank them ahead of time for all of the hard work that we will put in to implement the actions and services that are outlined within the plan. And I also would like to thank CBO Kim and her team for their work on the budget and expenditure tables in the plan to ensure fiscal alignment. But most importantly, I would like to truly appreciate Superintendent Evans for his guidance and support and inspiration during this challenging time and reminding us to always stay inspirational and to stay true to who we are and to lean into our core values, especially during the most challenging times. Thank you so much for your leadership. Okay, beginning. We are the Albany Unified School District. We're a community of compassionate, collaborative, critical thinking, creative learners and leaders who care about our students and believe in the infinite potential of each and every single child in our district. We believe that it is our mission and privilege to provide access and opportunity to resources and learning that best prepare our students for college, career, and community. And we stand firm in our core values of ensuring equity, diversity, and inclusion for our staff, students, and families. Next slide, please. Speaking of core values, the way our country and state chooses to fund school districts is a direct reflection of our values as a society. This chart shows the district's budget for this upcoming school year. The large pie shows the total budget for the district. As you can see, the district budget consists of many different funding sources that come from the federal, state, and local governments, with the largest source being the local control funding formula, which makes up about 65% of our annual revenue. And if you look at the pie chart on the right, you will see that the LCFF funds are composed of 2 components. The largest portion of the funding is a portion based on total student enrollment, and the small portion of LCFF supplemental grant is a portion for unduplicated student enrollment. This is important for us to know because the local control funding formula was conceptualized within the same equity framework as the local control accountability plan. Both the funding and the plan were intentionally designed to provide resources to all students and at the same time provide more to those groups of students that have been historically and traditionally underserved. Therefore, our LCAP budget of $4,374,400 is a combination of supplemental funding for unduplicated pupils and other LCFF funds for all students. By design, we have a legal and moral imperative to focus our efforts and expenditures on our most underserved populations of students. Next slide, please. It is important for us to know who our students are in order to provide the best support for all. We serve a diverse population of students, and our unduplicated pupil count has been growing over the years. In the 2023-24 school year, 31% of our students are identified as socioeconomically disadvantaged, which is up 10% from 3 years ago. 12.8% of our students are designated as English learners, and less than 1% are classified as unhoused or foster youth. And in looking at ethnic populations, currently our largest population are Asian students at 31.6%. This population, along with our Black African American population, has been showing growth over the last few years as well. What is most notable for us to understand is that currently about 75% of our population is now students of color, and 1/3 of our population is classified as under-resourced. More important than ever, we need the cultural competency to best serve our students. Next slide, please. Educational partner engagement is an important part of the LCAP development process. We launched a thought exchange survey district-wide and with the Student Achievement Committee. We had over 700 participants composed of students, staff, parents, and community members, with the greatest participation from our parents and robust engagement from our students. Overwhelmingly, the responses from our community and Student Achievement Committee were to prioritize mental health and social emotional supports, academic interventions from instructional specialists, and academic counseling. The need to continue professional development for staff and to support student-led activities and programs were also uplifted. And this feedback directly influenced the actions and services that are outlined in this LCAP. Next slide, please. In reviewing the results directly related to our 3 goals, we see strong agreement that students are making expected academic progress. The whole child is being supported and families are being informed with communications from the district. And the best news is that we see an increase in the percentage of satisfaction with our schools from families, staff, and students from last school year to this school year, which means that we are growing and making progress. Next slide, please. Goal 1 is to assess and increase student achievement. In reflecting about the actions and services of the last 3 years of the prior LCAP cycle, we're proud of the major successes that are aligned to our objectives. First and foremost, we aim to learn about and implement the multi-tier system of support framework district-wide. And currently, all of our schools have the framework in place and are implementing the strategies that are outlined within the 3 tiers. And driven by our theory of action that if we increase adult learning and capacity, then we will improve student achievement, we embarked on a journey to provide robust learning for teachers and administrators. We've been able to leverage our resources to hire experts in the field to provide professional development for our teachers in the area of universal design for learning, anti-race culturally responsive practices, and structured literacy. At the same time, our student data has not yet reflected the transfer of this learning to our student outcomes. The lasting impact of the pandemic learning disruptions is still evident and will need continued focus and effort, especially for our most underserved students, for whom the gap has widened during the unprecedented time of school closures. We will need to increase access and opportunities to programs and services to increase their achievement. Next slide, please. The district goal number 1 is to create the conditions to maximize learning outcomes for students. And the mission is to provide the resources and learning opportunities for maximum growth and achievement. And in order to support students to achieve this goal, we assign actions as a resource and service. And each action is directly tied to a metric to measure the effectiveness of that action. And if at the end of the 3-year cycle, the data metric does not reflect improvement, we will discontinue that action and establish a new action that will support improvement. In the upcoming school year, we will continue to focus on improving the most effective Tier 1 instruction, knowing that the first instruction has to be the best instruction. By continuing to invest in professional development, we will expand teacher knowledge and efficacy, which will in turn increase student achievement. We will also continue to invest in reading, math, and ELD specialists who are highly trained and qualified to provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction to our most underserved students to narrow the access, opportunity, and achievement gaps. Next slide, please. And in order to measure student achievement growth, we will continue to invest in our local assessment and data analysis infrastructures. And of course, ensuring that our students have access to standards-aligned instructional materials is imperative, and we will continue to invest in this action as well. Next slide, please. Goal 2 is to support the whole child. As a community, we understand that students' physical, mental, and emotional health and wellness is the prerequisite for learning readiness. Especially coming out of the pandemic environment of isolation and disconnectedness, it was critical to expand our mental health and social emotional supports and services for students, which the district has been able to do over the years. And at the same time, we've been able to create programs specifically designed to serve our most underserved and under-resourced students. We established the Young Men and Young Women of Color program to support the well-being and connectedness for historically marginalized groups of students. And we successfully implemented the state-mandated Expanded Learning Opportunities program to serve over 200 of our English learner and under-resourced students that have been most impacted by the school closures and virtual learning environment. And at the same time, our data shows us that we have to focus on increasing attendance and decreasing chronic absenteeism rates. In line with the nationwide data, the chronic absenteeism rate has dramatically increased as a result of the new post-pandemic mindset of abundant caution and school refusal. As a district, we will need to embark on a campaign of educating our community about the importance of school attendance and put support systems in place for students and families that need additional and differentiated interventions. And we believe that if we increase student connectedness and family engagement with these supports, then we will improve student attendance and achievement. Next slide, please. For goal 2, we are creating the conditions for maximum physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness. And the actions that we're investing in to achieve this goal are providing staffing and programs to support social emotional learning and mental health and wellness, as well as implementing a multi-tier system of support framework to increase attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism. Next slide, please. Goal 3 is communicating and leading together. And the conditions that must be created to achieve this goal is building positive and trusting relationships with our families. And with those positive and trusting relationships that are built and fostered, we will improve communications and increase collaborative decision-making with families, which will increase student achievement. With that theory of action in mind, we intentionally collaborate with and support parent and student affinity groups. I personally serve as the district liaison with the various parent and student affinity groups and have the privilege of working with the dedicated, compassionate, hardworking parents and student leaders of our community. And as was evidenced by the survey results, The outcome has been increased satisfaction from our community as it relates to district collaboration and communications. Also, as it relates to leading with our community, I'm most proud of the district-wide listening campaign that was launched and facilitated by the Student Achievement Committee last year. The Student Achievement Committee is composed of mostly parents, students, and staff of color in our district, and facilitated a district-wide listening campaign with all parent volunteers. We hosted 13 in-person and virtual listening sessions where parents and community members were invited to provide feedback to the district about our areas of strength, as well as our areas for growth as it relates to our student outcomes. And as we look forward to the new school year, the Student Achievement Committee, along with our parent and student affinity groups, would like to work together to continue to focus on increasing engagement and collaboration with our most underserved and underrepresented students and families. Next slide, please. We understand that uplifting the voices that have been historically silenced is the greatest goal of equity, diversity, and inclusion in action. Therefore, we are continuing the actions of investing in parent engagement and input in decision-making, as well as communications specialists and systems to continue to improve our ability to communicate and lead together with our community. Next slide, please. Now that the plan has been developed for the new school year, our next step is for the board to provide official approval at the June 18th meeting. Then the approved plan will be submitted to the Alameda County Office of Education and posted on our district website. And most importantly, we will share our plan with the community and work in collaboration with sites to implement the plan to improve outcomes for our students. And in closing, I would like to say that the greatest and most impactful resource that we have to best serve our students is us. Through the continuous cycle of improvement framework, we can continue to learn, grow, and better serve our students together. When we're able to best serve our most underserved, we will better serve everyone. And when we work in partnership and collaboration with families, we can improve outcomes for our students. As we move into a more fiscally lean time, it is more important than ever that we lean on each other, we learn together, we grow together, and we lead together. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share this plan with you. I'll be right out with my mask.
Thank you, Dr. Shin. And we will now open the public hearing on the LCAP. I get to use my gavel for one thing. So our public hearing is open, so we'll have our board comments after the public comments on this one, okay? So if any public would like to make comments during this, please come up to the podium if you're in person, and if you're in our virtual audience, please raise your hand. We'll take our in-person comments first.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about I think the very last slide before the concluding slide had an item for communication. And I just wanted to ask a little bit more about what that was going to be. I think that that's something that can always be improved. And in particular, the websites I'm finding to be really not helpful a lot. And I just wondered if that was part of the communication strategy. What is the communication strategy? What's the money that's listed there being spent on? Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, that is definitely one of our greatest goals, to improve our website and the look of it. And our communications specialist is really leading that effort. And so most of the funding is utilized to support our communication specialists, as well as translation services, as well as the website development. The weekly communications that come out from the district, translated into multiple languages, all of those are funded by that action.
Okay, and it looks like we have a virtual caller. Go ahead, you will have your 2 minutes.
Awesome, thank you, board. I'll start by saying that the LCAP is about improving student outcomes of low-performing student groups. And I believe all parents would agree with me that safety does come first. And at the May 14th board meeting, we were informed that, I quote, district-wide, we need security at our schools. We need enhancements of safety measures for things like addressing sound decibel levels at AMS, the stairways at AHS, mold at Albany Children's Center. And we were told that the fences on the BART track bordering Cougar Field need to be tarped because, quote, homeless hang out there, do weird things, and watch the kids doing PE. But a huge need, again, that we cannot be ignoring is the security cameras. And it's also paramount that the LCAP be used to hire more ELA and math specialists to serve the underperforming students. We should be offering all tiers of intervention, obtain dyslexic teachers and other specialists to reach all the children who are getting left behind. Last year, my daughter received 1 ELA and 9 math interventions total. Principal Poole and the Executive Director of Student Services still cannot guarantee my daughter intervention. She's entering 3rd grade and cannot write her name. She's working on adding and subtracting in kindergarten to 1st grade level and cannot read at grade level. The district also has eliminated our early bird and late bird schedule, directly impacting learning. We can use the LCAP to make a low adult to student ratio for increased academic success. We also can use LCAP to have teachers meet district standards. In addition, teachers, paras, librarians, mental health, and yard duties have been cut, and we could use this LCAP here to help keep teachers and supportive staff. LCAP could also be used to educate our children as they're learning less every year. The California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress shows a district-wide decrease of learning, and our children are performing worse every year. Increased learning will directly impact other LCAP priorities, including college preparedness, achievement outcomes, mental health, embracing the whole child, and school climate. When our children win,
Thank you
we win
so
as a
much
community.
for your comment. Okay. Dr. Shin, can you just quickly give us a reminder of like the purpose of the LCAP in relationship to Albany Unified?
The LCAP is in direct alignment with our district's strategic plan, and it aligns with our 3 major goals. Our first goal is to assess and increase student achievement. Our second goal is to support the whole child, and our third goal is to communicate and lead together. And so through those 3 major goals, we have objectives under them, which are, again, the district's goals and objectives. And so the plan outlines the coordinations of actions, services, personnel, and fiscal expenditures in order for us to reach those goals.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing portion and have board comment and discussion on the LCAP. So I'm gonna close the public hearing. It is closed on the LCAP. And if there's any board questions or comments.
Thank you, Dr. Shin, and I'm sorry that all these presentations are coinciding with you not feeling well. I just wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit about kind of the difference just overall in the allocations in this plan versus previous years. Like, are there areas, I know that through like the priorities were listed about, mental health and those priorities. So I would think perhaps there's a higher allocation in those areas than there have been in previous years. But if you could just kind of speak overall about kind of the differences for this set of allocations as compared to previous years. Thanks.
So thank you for asking that question. The areas that we are more robustly investing in, it is for our English learner students as well as our special education students, because according to our data, we see that those student groups are the most underserved at this moment. So we have, for instance, for our special education students, Dr. Biggs has done a great job implementing some new strategies. At the middle school, we have a team teaching model launching where our gen ed teacher as well as our special education teachers are collaborating together to design lessons together, and then actually in the classrooms together to serve our special education as well as gen ed students. And then at the high school level, we are opening a new program called Launch, specifically to serve special education students who are experiencing school refusal. So that program is going to be implemented in this new school year with a special education program specialist leading that effort. And actually, I was in a collaboration meeting earlier today, and we started to discuss that program coming on board at the high school. So that's specific to that. And as for our English learner students, again, in line with the nationwide data, unfortunately, the gap has grown wider for them in terms of achievement. So we do need to have a more focused effort. And so we are going to be providing standard-aligned curriculum for our ELD specialists to utilize and provide targeted instruction in that area. And then the chronic absenteeism rate, that is of real concern nationwide and for us as well. And so we are designing a 3-tier system to, again, one, really, I don't want to use the word attack, but really address just attendance overall with everyone. Just attendance has fallen, and we also know that with our fiscally lean situation coming up, attendance is revenue. And so we want to start a campaign with our families, getting families to better understand that excused absences still don't generate revenue. So things of that nature, we want to be on a monthly campaign at the Tier 1 level. And then at the Tier 2 level, we have the SART process, which is the school attendance review team that will provide individualized supports to students and families who need that. And then at the Tier 3 level, we will have the district process in which we will continue to engage families and students who need additional support to come to school. Obviously, you need to be here in order to learn. So that is our number one investment that we're adding to this new school year.
The only question I have is for Goal 2. I know we're talking about social and emotional health, and I'm wondering, are we, because I know we obviously had budget cuts and everything. My only question is, are we bringing some of those interns back or folks that may have been let go under, that budget? And I guess just like, are we going to prioritize that if possible?
Of course, we want to bring back as many staff as we possibly can. And right now we are waiting on a response from a state grant that will allow us to receive reimbursements from the state for any type of mental health supports that we provide to our students. And we're very hopeful. Executive Director Brill is leading that effort. And if we can secure that funding, we will definitely be able to provide even more robust supports than we have in the past.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that because, I have brought this up at our budget meetings and all those things, and it's really a challenging situation where, and just in looking at the data that you presented, I found it a little bit interesting that we put mental health supports first, but I saw that it was asterisked twice. And it says, it was listed as a priority by staff and SAC members, but it was listed as second priority by parents and guardians. And it tied with academic counseling for first place by students, which I would assume is high school students responding on that, not elementary, because they don't experience academic counseling. So I just find it a little bit interesting that we're like putting mental health there when the core role of a school district really seems to me to align more with like instructional specialists, academic counseling, and those things. And it seems like, I know we need to do all of it so that kids are healthy and feel good at school, but I also know that we can't fund all of it in a robust and meaningful way. So I'm really happy to hear that we're pursuing this other avenue for funding some of that to be present in our schools. But I do want us to, really be thoughtful about, are there other ways that we can focus on the whole child that isn't just all the mental health programs? Like eating is a big part of the whole child. And is our eating situation comfortable? Or are we providing good food? Are they getting enough movement? Is the lighting in the classroom the right light? Like there's all these little nuanced things that we can think about, whereas I feel like we're constantly just like the whole child mental health supports. And it's almost like we're like, here's our tagline, we'll just fix it. So I just really want us to be thoughtful about when we say this, are we really looking at a whole child? Or are we looking at one part of a child that we have a way to kind of put that tag on? And so that just really caught my eye on this one. And, the other thing I just wanted to raise is, glad you elaborated on what's happening with the co-teaching at the middle school, because we haven't really heard any feedback from last year on MTSS or UDL and anything that's happening with it. So I know we made huge efforts to have a position that was gonna lead this, and we had so much conversation and a lot moving in that direction. And then I feel like the board hasn't heard what's actually happening with it, which I'm sure there's plenty happening there. We just would be really excited to get some updates on that. Yeah. UDL and MTSS, those were our big ones last year. And, let's be very, very understanding of the fact that with the loss of Dr. Wells, I think we all kind of had things go in the shuffle, and that's very understandable. Any other? No? Okay, we're gonna move on to our public hearing on the budget and our resolution. I think we've given Ann all her mic time. Thank you. All right, so is there a presentation, or do you want me just to? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board, Superintendent Evans, and Albany community. Okay, let me just share this. So I'm gonna just go over to the presentation. Okay. So this is the 24-25 budget presentation. We'll have a public hearing this evening and adoption of this budget report at the next board meeting. So this proposed budget report is one of the routinely required state reporting, along with the first interim and second interim and what we say fiscal close on audit actual. Okay. This budget includes updates from May revise, executive summary, and SAC's fiscal report. You will see about 150 pages and very small letters attached, and 3-year projection, which is this 24-25, 25-26, and 26-27. So this is a budget process timeline. I want everyone to remember there is 4 critical timelines for budget. The first, June 30th, we are bringing the budget adoption by June 30th. September 15th is what we call fiscal close and on-audit actual. And if there are any big changes from the state budget, enacted state budget, we will bring on 45-day revise. December 15th, this is the first interim. Also, the first interim is important because now from this projection, we know where we place the staff and how much student we exactly have, and how health benefits our staff took. So it's really a big time there. In January, we will have a governor's budget, but March 15th, we will have a second interim, which is about half of the school year. Okay, and the cycle starts again. Okay, so this budget development factors. So student enrollment generates our staffing plans and our revenue and unduplicated student counts, which we get additional funding for those certain group of students. And this also impacts our LCAP expenditures and revenues. Okay, now this budget also include any negotiated items with our neighbor partners, with ATA, CSEA, and SEIU. Okay, so now let's look at the enrollment. Okay, so we budget about, for this current 24-25, we are budgeting about 3,550 students. This number is as of the last week of May. So this number can change, depends on how many more inter-district transfer students we have or how many students we have exited until between now until the first day of school. Okay. And also, as you can see, about 10 years ago, in 2014-15, we had about 33,881 students. So we dropped about 10%, 330 students. Okay. However, you will see that last 3 years, the district made a great effort of accepting and recruiting inter-district transfer students that we didn't drop as significantly as in the past years. And of course, the next few years of the declining enrollment, we use the Power Score declining ratio. Okay. And I know Dr. Shin mentioned about attendance. So I will say this. Not only the higher attendance means more academic engagement, but also 1% of higher attendance will give the district about $400,000. So before pandemic, we were about at 97%. And most recent data shows that we are at 95.8%. Okay, so there is a room to grow. So this is a multi-year projection assumption. So you will see compares the first column is really the current year, and then the second column is for the next year's budget, and the following columns are for next 2 years. Okay. Something that I wanted to point out here is when you see the COLA, this is the fourth row from the top. For 24-25, you will see 1.07%. Okay. Right below that, you will see about 3.1% as a California CPI. So what it means is when you look at the other years, the COLA is higher than California CPI. So the COLA, what we say is increase in revenue. California CPI is really inflation. So 24-25 year does not look good at all. Okay, right? The inflation shows higher than the revenue growth. Okay. So now let's look at the LCF funding. So, well, you will see this column here, supplemental, which is the fourth column. This is where we have this LCAP specifically, the LCAP money, and also we will have a total LCF funding of $41,516,000. And very last column, I like to put this only because I get asked a lot during the year. So some question is like this. Okay, from middle school, if my kids miss the school, how much money are we losing? And the answer is $62. Okay. I just put it there because I've been asked a lot of questions like that. Okay, so this proposed budget is only an initial blueprint for revenues and expenditures since the preparation of this adopted budget occurs before state has enacted its budget, which is before the July 1st that governor will do, and before the actual revenues and expenditure are known for the current year. Okay. So now this is Albany specific for 24-25 assumptions. So step and column increase is about 1.7%, and this budget also include 3% raises upon the partial tax measure G passing. Okay, and health and welfare increase. So this is 7.8% is for 24-25, and 6%, another 6% is for the next 2 years. So this current year, 23-24, is about it is at 11.78% increased. So when you look at it, this number is not very conservative, but I am hoping that this inflation or any increase will slow down. And especially the 7.8% is the average of last 3 years. Okay. And big kudos for our pool director, Albany Children's Center director, and food service director. No contributions has been made in 23-24 year, and again, we don't project any contributions for the next year. Okay, yes. Okay, vacancies, about 43 FTEs. This seems a lot, but this is in line with our prior years, and also budget that half of our new employees will take family plan. So there is some room if our new employee takes more of the single or employee plus one, maybe there might be some savings. But if there's more than half of our employee takes family plan, then the budget might not look good as that we see today. Okay, special education. We also budget additional students for non-public school and residential placement. Okay. So it's also important to understand that one-time funded expenditures are removed when the funding runs out. What it means is we have a one-time kitchen fund or something like educator effectiveness grant are removed when the funding runs out. Okay, so what can 1.07 COLA do to Albany? So as you see, about $41 million of our LCFF revenue, so only 1.07% gives us about $440,000. Okay, little increase on LCAP. So this $29,000 we will have to put into that LCAP is required. So it's not really for the general purpose. So without that, we will have about additional $411,000 compared to last year. Okay, so great that we got another $400,000 more revenue than this current year. Expenditures, step and column cost is about $500,000. And health and welfare cost increase projected at 7.8%. This can go up higher or maybe less. At the moment, with 7.8%, is over $500,000. KALB pulse rate increase of 0.55%. This number really changed a little bit from the presentation. I will update and put the revised one. There's a little clerical error, but $29,000. California's CPI, which is the inflation of 3.1%, of $336,000. So this I only apply to materials and supplies and contracted services. You know, it's a little hot here, or maybe this number makes everyone a little steamy here. Hey. Right. So it's a little steamy here. And unfortunately, we have to add additional positions due to the special education needs of 2 positions. So it really depends on our students, right? When we have more students needs specific needs, then we will have to add teachers. Okay, so the net, not a good number, a net deficit of over $1.2 million. Okay, so let's move to our pie chart showing the total general fund revenues. So thanks to our Albany community, we have about $9.2 million partial tax expect to come, which is about 14% of our total revenue. Okay, and our state source is about 80%, LCFF funding of 65%, and other state revenue of 15%. Federal revenue is only at 2%. Now, expenditures. So you will see that about 85% of expenditures are for salaries and benefits. And this is common throughout other school districts in California because we are in education business, meaning we need people to teach and educate our students. This is pretty much like a final result of where all the monies and assumptions built in. So we are required to have 3% at year 3. Okay. So in order for us to have 3% reserve at year 3, we'll have to have another reduction of $650,000. So I brought a resolution for this with this budget. And it is really because of our 1.07% COLA and all the expenditures that we will have to meet, and it's our obligation. But I will say there are some rooms, meaning if we increase the attendance by 1%, there's going to be additional $400,000. Or if we have a lot more inter-district transfer students coming, then we will expect more revenues. So this number can fluctuate in either good way, positive, or I will also say we might experience unexpected expenditures that we don't know at this time, then yes, that we do wanna have. So with that, our next step for this current year budget, this school year, we will be busy closing the books during the summer. In September, we'll have unaudited actuals. This is the actual number which we call book closing. January 2025, we will bring the audited financial statement. And with 24-25 budget, so this evening is a public hearing. At the next board meeting will be a budget adoption. And by June 30th, or usually by July 1st, governor acts on the budget. So if there are significant changes, then district will bring 45-day revised. Month. That concludes the budget presentation.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open this as a public hearing. So we will open the public hearing, there you go, on the budget and the resolution. So if there's any public comment in person, please come up to the podium. Online, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on the budget. We can have board hot flashes and heat waves and steamy discussions about a really terrible situation. Yeah, but thank you, Jackie, for being, I know, it's not against you, just being so professional and bringing this and having positives at the end of, look what we can do to fix this. Send your kids to school or write a check for the amount they're taking away each day. If they are sick and validly not in school, just donate that money and it will be fine. I would like to hugely commend your work and the district's work on Albany Children's Center and the Aquatic Center and the food program, because that was $500,000. Like, we were putting in exactly what you're saying we're going to be in a deficit of before, and so we would be looking at $1 million if we hadn't done that, so thank you. Melissa and I are like partying up here on that one. Woo-hoo. Okay. Budget looks terrible, nothing really much. We'll keep trying. Let's move on. We are gonna go to our facility priorities result and our draft of Proposition 39 bond measure resolution. Back to you, Jackie.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can pull that back up. So at the May 14th board meeting, the board received facility needs assessment report on the current facility needs. And at the last board meeting, the board was provided a feasibility of placing the general fund measure would not increase current tax obligation. So district conducted a survey to get a community input on prioritization of the project described in the facility needs assessment. And this evening, board will receive the survey result and will review the ballot language. So I'm gonna share the survey result for now. So the survey was open from May 29th to June 6th. And the district received approximately about 1,000 responses. So we have a great interest in this facility in our community. It's about 54% from the parents and staff. And I'll move to the next slide. So here are our top priorities. High school HVAC and high school modernization and middle school modernization and middle school HVAC. Okay? in high school, modern fine arts and NPR building, and Cornell, modernization, new classroom buildings, and marine, Ocean View, and Albany Aquatic Center repair and restore. So here are our highest priorities. And based on this, we have developed a draft of the ballot language for the bond measure. We have our attorney here this evening to go over this ballot language.
President and, oh, great. Okay, great. President and members of the board, good evening. My name is Lauren Herrera. I work with Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe, and we serve as bond counsel to the district. So we've been collaborating with Jackie as well as a couple members of the board, other community members to together the form of resolution that you have before you tonight. So this is a resolution that would order the school bond election to be placed on the ballot on November 5th. If we could scroll just a little bit. I can take the time to walk through generally. Please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions. So we start here in the resolution with some recitals that describe the district's role in the community and educating its students. Right at the top two, we wanted to discuss the recent parcel tax adoption from this March, as well as the parcel tax that's already on the tax levies. And this is primarily meant to inform prospective district voters about the parcel taxes and what they accomplish, and then in contrast, what a general obligation bond measure would accomplish, and kind of the differences there in what can be financed. The balance of the recitals on this first page describe some of the facilities priorities. It's reflective of the responses through the survey that were received and some input from members of the board and district. With that, as we move further into the resolution, most of these recitals reference the California Constitution and statutory framework under which a school district can call a bond election. So there are two primary ways for a school district to call an election. They can either seek approval with 2/3 voter approval or a 55%. The district has done both in the past. The 55% approval approach is much more common. Just the lower threshold makes it easier to market the potential measure to voters. However, when you call a 55% voter approval measure, there are some additional accountability safeguards that are required. And so a lot of the recitals here discuss what each of those accountability safeguards are and discuss the district's intention to comply with each of those. So some of those include the convening of a citizens oversight board who after the fact reviews the expenditures and make sure that those are consistent with the bond project list. There's additionally some requirements for annual audits to be put together. And then in addition, we mentioned the very full bond project list, which comprehensively includes every possible facilities project that the district may want to undertake with proceeds of the bond. And so of course that includes the top priorities, but we also want to include, just as a matter of contingency, any possible projects that could arise that are not currently anticipated. We know facilities needs can be hard to guess at. So with that, I think we move to page 5. Again here, numbered paragraph 2 is the district-specific action to invoke and call the election for November 5th. Discusses the district's requirement to collaborate with members of the County Registrar of Voters Office. And so then we see under numbered paragraph 3B, the actual 75-word ballot question that will appear in materials that are distributed to voters. So this was crafted. There are some statutory requirements that limit how the question can be phrased, but functionally you want to describe your top facilities priorities and then say, shall the district's measure to accomplish those priorities be adopted? There's also some requirements that we include some estimated tax levy information. So one, you're saying the total maximum number of bonds that you would be authorized to issue, but also what that would mean in terms of the levy amount on each assessed valuation property and how much you expect to raise in each year for those facilities. So then as we scroll down a little bit further, most of the balance of this is, again, just ensuring that you are requesting that the County Registrar of Voters includes all of the operative language within the ballot materials to be distributed to voters. We mentioned here that there is an August 9th deadline to get all of this information over to the county, and then they have a couple of months to put those materials together. And finally, let's see here, under numbered paragraph 7, the board would also authorize the superintendent, chief business official, any other designees to continue to move this forward with the County Registrar of Voters. So there will be a process of reviewing the materials they provide. You can also convene a small committee to submit ballot arguments in favor. If there are any ballot arguments against, you can also put together a rebuttal to that. So with that, we can move to Exhibit A. This is the full text of the actual measure. So everything that you see here in Exhibit A is what would be included in the ballot materials that voters see. So your findings section here on the first page mirrors the initial recitals that we had in the resolution itself. So again, kind of presenting this narrative about what the district is aiming to accomplish, describing the financing mechanisms that it already has at its disposal through the parcel taxes, and then listing some of the highest facility priorities. With that, then we move into and we make reference here as well to previously approved measures that the district voters have supported, as well as the current tax levy amount, which in aggregate is $180 per $100,000. So there's, again, an expectation that there would be a steady tax levy. So as some of the prior bonds mature and come off the levy, that's the opportunity for new issuances of bonds to come out. And so keep taxpayers' expectations that that 180 will remain relatively steady. And here, as we move into bond authorization itself, again, this is a recital for the benefit of voters about what the accountability safeguards are and the commitment of the district to comply with each of those. Then finally, let's see, as we move to page A5, we introduce the concept of the bond project list. And then on A6, this is the specific bulleted list of all the potential facilities projects that could be financed with the bond. So these are also ordered in terms of to reflect the survey results and the top priorities as responded to by those participants. So we have the HVAC, electrical improvements, a very long bullet that describes all of the litany of interior improvements that could be necessary. And then each of the remaining bullet points are, again, meant to capture any potential facilities, projects, needs that might be undertaken with the bond. We also include some miscellaneous, again, contingency items, just should you need to undertake any of those in the process of getting your top priorities accomplished. And I think with that, we can move to Exhibit B. This is also included in the ballot materials that would go before voters and is statutorily required. Here the district makes the best estimate of the impact on the tax levy as a result of voters approving the measure. So we have this broken down into, on page B1, numbered paragraph 1, 2, and 3. These are each of the statutory requirements. So you have to have a best estimate of the average annual tax over the entire time that the bonds are outstanding, an estimate of the highest tax rate, should that vary at all from the average annual, and then the expected amount of total debt service that would be repaid over the life of the bonds. Here again, in the interest of complete transparency, we make reference to the prior measures that are already on the tax levy and the current levy amount that is being assessed. And so with that, I know it's a lot of information and fairly dense, but if there are any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Any board questions or comments?
I'll just comment to say that was super clear, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I agree.
Thanks for all your work on this. And also just to make it very clear to anyone in the community watching, so we're not looking to increase anyone's bond bill, we're just keeping it steady and extending.
Exactly, yeah. In the interest, I think, of the district's ongoing financial stewardship, we've worked very closely with your financial advisors to ensure that the projections kind of line up with your expectation that the rate would not increase.
Okay. Any public comment on this? If you're in person, come on up to the podium. If you're online, raise your hand. Seeing none, we will move on to our review and action items. I don't need this anymore. That one's not a public hearing. All right. We are moving on to the Independent Contractor Services Agreement between AUSD and the YMCA for ELOP. And, you know, Ann, we're really putting you through the ringer tonight.
Well, I appreciate your patience as I do my best. Okay, well, this is the last and final one. So thank you for the opportunity to share an update about the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program on this anniversary month of the partnership with the YMCA to provide ELOP in Albany. Last school year, the board approved the contract with the YMCA. And since then, the YMCA has provided the 6-week summer program as well as the during the school year extended day program to over 200 of our students. We truly appreciate the collaboration and partnership with the YMCA to provide the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program to our most underserved students, and truly look forward to continuing to grow and serve together with the renewed contract. In this presentation, we will do a quick walk down memory lane to remind us about the legislation that was the catalyst for this program and the process that we went through to land on the partnership with the YMCA. Then we will share feedback from our families and the YMCA's plan to provide enhanced programming in alignment with that feedback. Next slide, please. The Expanded Learning Opportunities Program is a state legislation that has been conceptualized within the equity framework, and it is directly aligned with our district goals and objectives to provide resources to support the whole child and to close the access, opportunity, and achievement gaps. ELOP is a Tier 3 program to support our English learner and under-resourced students. Next slide, please. Again, the way our state has chosen to provide targeted resources is a direct reflection of our values as a society. As a society, we stand firm in our belief that it is our legal, moral, and civic responsibility to provide additional resources for students that continue to be disadvantaged by the system due to the lack of social, cultural, and financial capital. Students who are identified as English learner, socioeconomically disadvantaged, unhoused, and foster youth continue to be at the forefront of the access, opportunity, and achievement gaps due to the inequitable social structures and systems of privilege that exist in our society based on race and class. And although the pandemic environment had a challenging impact for all of our students, the negative impact has been the greatest for our English learner and under-resourced students. For those students, the inability to learn in an in-person English language immersed environment and receive support services created barriers to accessing online learning. And as a result, the achievement gap has widened and the sense of disconnectedness has heightened. The framers of this legislation understood the challenge of this inequitable outcome for our students and envisioned a way to provide programming that elevates a sense of connectedness, belonging, and mitigate learning loss. Next slide, please. As with most funding that comes from the state, there are many requirements that districts must adhere to. First and foremost, the legislatures were clear that the extended day program did not replicate the regular school day program. The intent is not to provide the same academic programming, but a program that provides activities for students to interact and connect and build language and social emotional skills with one another. Then, of course, there are very important operational requirements, and some of those are to ensure a 9-hour extended day program, as well as 30 additional days outside of the school year. And they have strict staffing ratio requirements, which are 1:10 in TK and K and 1:20 in 1st through 6th grades. Next slide, please. In order to meet these requirements and implement a program that is best for our students, we engaged in many hours of learning through the state and county meetings and workshops last school year. We envisioned an in-house program at first that would be led by our teachers. Knowing that our teachers are the most qualified and connected to our students, we believe that they would be the most impactful. But after consulting with our site leaders and educators, we quickly realized that would add additional days to their work, which would lead to burnout and stress, which would outweigh the benefits of their expertise, as well as the cost to pay teachers versus paraeducators would mean that less students could be served in the program if teachers were to teach. Then we looked at the potential of expanding our own ACC program, and unfortunately, we faced two large barriers. First, we were unable to find qualified applicants to serve as paraeducators for the program. As we know, there's a nationwide shortage of teachers and paraeducators, and all districts were looking to implement this program, and there were no staff out there that we could hire. Second, although the legislation allows us to expand an existing program, it requires us to adhere to the parameters of the program with the more restrictive guidelines. In this case, ACC has the more restrictive staffing ratio guidelines. ELOP requires 1:10 TKK again, and 1:20, 1 through 6. ACC requires 1:8 TKK and 1:14 1st through 6. And what this means for the program is that less students would be able to be served due to the need to hire more staff if we were to expand the ACC program to offer ELOP. And since it is our goal to serve as many students as possible, we then explored options of partnering with an established organization that has proven experience and staffing capacity. We vetted 4 different potential partner organizations. After many meetings to learn about their programs, on-site observations of their programs and action in other districts, we asked for proposals to better understand the cost. It was clear to us at that point that partnering with the YMCA would provide the best program for our students and would be most cost-effective for the district. The YMCA has been a trusted partner to AUSD since 1979, almost 5 decades. They have the intimate knowledge of our community and the worldwide experience in delivering this type of programming. And after many collaboration meetings and presentations to the community, the board approved the contract to partner with the YMCA to deliver the ELOP. Since then, the YMCA has provided the 2023 summer 6-week program and the school year extended day program. And throughout the school year, I have received positive feedback from the families that we serve, along with pleas from families that are not currently in the program to be included. The amount of daily emails that I receive are countless and compelling. Next slide, please. As a cycle of continuous improvement, we engaged our families in a survey to provide feedback to us about their experiences in the program. Throughout the school year, we served 214 students, and surveys were sent to all of those families. We received 106 responses, which is about 70% rather than the 50% of the families served, since one respondent can represent more than one student for families that have siblings in the program who were instructed to respond only once to the survey. And as you can see, 95% of the families that responded agreed and strongly agreed that they are satisfied with the program, with none expressing dissatisfaction. Next slide, please. And when asked if they would like to be included for the upcoming summer program, 74% gave a definitive yes response, and 90% responded yes for the upcoming school year program. Understanding this demand, as well as the fiscal forecast to reduce funding to school districts in the upcoming years, we will be making all efforts to accommodate as many of these families and those on the wait list as possible. Next slide, please. We also asked questions about what components of the program were most valuable and where were our areas for growth. The top responses included academic support and social skills development activities. And many families cited the positive impact of their students increasing their language skills as a result of the program. At the same time, there were suggestions for growth. Families asked for more sports activities, reading time, journal writing, and other activities to enrich the program. Next slide, please. Next slide.
This one is the next one.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry.
It looks the same, yeah.
The lights went out in this room, sorry.
Yep.
Again,
You're very dark.
Again, the parents expressed positive benefits of the program for their children, especially for single working, studying parents. They expressed gratitude to the district and the YMCA for providing a safe, structured environment for their children to interact with friends, develop their social skills and language skills. Next slide, please. These survey results were shared with the YMCA team for their review and reflection. The YMCA leadership team and I engaged in a debrief and reflection meeting to plan for improved services to our students and families. The YMCA staff are truly caring, and the leadership team is collaborative and responsive. They are fully committed to the cycle of continuous improvement and engage in a process to make adjustments to best serve our most underserved students. And rather than open up for questions now, I will hand it over to Fran, the CEO of the YMCA, to share their program offerings and the plan for enhancements and improvements as we move into the second year of implementation.
Thanks, Sam. It's good to see everybody. And yeah, first and foremost, it's been a good year in Albany, and as always, we're really privileged to serve the kids that need us the most, so happy to be here. I thought I'd go off script a little bit. In general, the program's a well-rounded after-school program and summer program, and the whole idea here is to make sure that we equalize offerings to all kids. So kids that can't afford childcare have this program for free. I think it's one of the best things in the governor's overall agenda. So the idea is, if you have a high-quality after-school program, then your attendance during the day goes up, and then academic performance and all the other indicators go up. I thought I'd go off script a little bit because the presentation that's before you, you've seen it. For us, the highlights for the year and the things that we really think we need to work on, in addition to all the parent feedback, highlights were building relationships with the principals at all the schools. We did a really, really hard work. We've got two key staff people assigned to the district, and they worked really hard. And your principals are quite excellent, actually. They're collaborative, they're giving. The second key was building relationships with the parents. It's hard work. We did a pretty good job in that space, and the needs are much more pronounced than they were before the pandemic. More kids with special needs, more English language learners, and quite frankly, a lot of kids climbing out of the pandemic, relearning social skills. And mental health is a big deal. A really well-structured program that kids can count on every day really is that great sort of augmentation any good mental health program. And I think the Albany district in general does a great job in that space. So I think you get high marks for mental health just for that. The other thing was, we had a lot of highlights programmatically, especially at the elementary school level. I think where we really need to improve, the parent feedback's valuable, more reading, more sports, and things like that. But if I were to isolate one thing overall, I think it's the middle school. And generally speaking, we don't do a lot of ELOP programming at the middle school level, but I feel like we've got to do something different next year to attract more kids. When you're in middle school, this isn't it's not cool to be in this kind of after-school program. So we got to bring a little bit more sizzle and things that the kids want to come to. So we're batting around a few different ideas, and we got to come up with something, a different angle, if you will, so the kids want to come. And it's got to be cool. It's got to be something that they don't feel like they're in an after-school care program. That's been our experience, by the way, in other districts, and a lot of them really aren't interested in doing middle school ELOP programming or the ACES, which is the cousin of ELOP. So that's kind of, those are things that we've got to do. The key ingredient to this whole thing, we've got really good leaders. You have really good principals, so we start really well there. We're collaborative. The key is going to be to keep putting energy into staff development. We got to recruit them. We got to keep them, and we got to help make them better, And I think that's a big challenge with upcoming budgets in all districts, and we're just figuring out how to lick that in the coming year. So we're proud of the work that we did. It's not flawless, and we've got a lot more work to do. But, I do think this is one of the better programs, and the governor's got a big sort of visionary agenda for kids, and this really is a great equalizer. So we're happy to be here, and if I missed anything, happy to take any questions along. Where is Ann? Oh, she's not up there anymore, but yeah, happy to take any questions that you might have. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for being here and for the presentation, and just wanted to say thank Dr. Shin as well for the presentation. I was really happy to see the results of the survey and how high the happiness of families is with the program. That was really great to see. I just wanted to, I know that you touched on it briefly, but I just wanted to kind of confirm and kind of say it again just to make sure it's clear to everyone that the list of sort of feedback from families as far as things that they would like to see, that there's a plan to kind of try to implement those things a bit more in addition to the other items you were talking about at the middle school.
Yeah, Vicky and Lupe on the ground are going to do more of the things that you're seeing in the summertime, and I think it's really, it has to do with the delivery of those different things, especially the reading and the journal writing for kids that are English language learners. That's a critical component. In the beginning of this, when we took over, it was kind of short notice last summer. I think the sports delivery last summer could have been a little bit better. So I'm not sure if it's more or if it's deepening the quality level through higher trained staff. It's not always more, And, we're happy with the survey results, but, and parents, they need good care, and we're doing that piece, but we want to dig a little bit more. I don't think it's more. I think it's doing the things that we do better. And that's all about staff development and quality work. So, but yeah, absolutely, yes to all of it.
Thank you both for the presentation, and just wanted to say I appreciate the opportunity to revisit. I know this was fairly short notice. Again, that's how we do things with ELOP, it seems. But I think looking back to the videos of the meetings from last year, you were kind enough to come in April, May, August, September, And in April, actually, Trustee Khan was saying that she really was looking forward to having an evaluation, she said, about seeing how students are progressing, how it's supporting students, how it could be made better. So I feel like this was a great opportunity to discuss last year's program and have that feedback from you. So thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And I think we had discussed, not in this meeting, but just that it would be helpful to have some sort of data, but we also discussed how challenging that is to collect, just to see how effective the program is for those students. So we have the survey results, which is a great first step. And then as we kind of move forward, thinking about next year, is there anything that we want to discuss and reconsider or think about? So I think the board for right now is very happy to kind of continue. Well,
sure.
Okay. The board is, I'm comfortable. I'm like, let me stop talking for the board. I don't know what all you guys think. I'm comfortable with doing it for right now because we're coming up on summer. Or in it. So here we go. We have to kind of move it forward and into the fall with an understanding that, the YMCA is looking really critically at those things. Some of the feedback that just I heard anecdotally was, people who observed the program didn't see it as being as high quality as they would have hoped, particularly for our students who might have more needs, needing even a little bit more. And I think you really nailed it on the head with it being a need of professional development and training and support for those leaders there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with especially getting it off the ground, the recruitment of, paraprofessional staff is probably an equal challenge to, filling all the district personnel roles right now. So we hustled around that last summer. It was a hustle all year, quite frankly. In different districts, it's starting to open up a little bit more because a lot of young people who typically take these jobs were kind of, there's a great resignation. It got contagious and people were questioning things. So we've got to bring, in my mind, we've got to bring value back to the work. I don't think it was perfect. I think it was good. I don't think, on days it was very good. On days I wasn't happy with it. So I think it's a range, but I think we can get better. I think we can get better. And, there's no substitute for paying a little more and recruiting a little bit better and then holding on to that team a little bit. We do a lot of staff training and development, and we should probably show you that whole agenda because we have multiple in-service trainings, and not just CPR and what you do in these different emergency environments, but, how to enliven a lesson plan, how to communicate more effectively with kids. It takes a while for people to, to grasp some of those skills. So, we're doing it across the board. So I think it was good. We're glad to be here. We want to be collaborative, and I think it'll continue to get better is where I think it is right now. That's why I agree with you, Veronica. I think, when you look at survey results, and we do this in Head Start, so like 100% of our Head Start families are happy. Well, they're lower income and they need free care, right? So we're gonna go up on that, but we got to build upon that, And it's a tougher space to play in as we talk about equity. I think a lot of times, we change things just when we're starting to dig in. To get work in these environments right, it takes kind of a multi-year tenacious effort. If we're really all going to make progress in the equity space, I don't want to make excuses. We're good. We need to get better, right? But we need to partner on how to do that. And I think the last thing I'll say about that whole topic is I think there are key metrics that we probably want to evaluate. And you can have too many in a program like this. And you can having none is not the right answer either. So we got to hit that Goldilocks. Attendance is a big one. Both after school and school-based attendance, that should be high, because if the kids are looking forward to a full day and the parents are relying on this, then that's a big one. And we could come up with kind of a narrow range of quality indicators. I think we got to do that in partnership, though. So we'll be looking forward to more conversations. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. The only thing I'm just going to add is, based on our conversations today, maybe we have some teachers within our district or staff within our district who are looking to add on some income and hours on their day, and maybe like musical theater could also happen during ELOP, and we could win-win on partnerships. So I think that's just a nice conversation to have with principals.
Yeah, I love that idea. The last, I should have, I got going, but the other piece that I didn't mention around the collaboration, I think it's important to know, you know, our team's got these instructions from us to say, help wherever you need to, you know, so they're on recess duty. They're doing different pockets of work where they're picking up kids where teachers need a break. You know, they've got that lend a helping hand kind of commitment. So it kind of goes over and above. And we're proud of that idea. That doesn't mean that we don't want to get better at some of the core things. But I think schools need that kind of environment right now, that kind of team building. Your principals make it easy, I'll tell you that. But our team meets them in spirit, you know, each and every day. So I think that's important too. So anyhow, I'll talk all night if you let me. So
That's awesome. Well,
yep.
let's not talk all night, but thank you for all of those added points. That's great. We're going to take public comment on this. So if you have public comment in person, come to the podium. Virtual audience, raise your hand. Seeing none, we are going to vote on the contract with the YMCA for the Extended Learning Opportunities Program. So we'll take a motion. We're doing it for the summer program and the school year, and then we'll go.
I move to approve the contract between AUSD and the YMCA for the ELOP program for 24-25 and this summer.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Contract approved. We are going to move on to item 9. Good night. Thank you for coming and staying. Item 9B, and this is the, well, okay. This was supposed to be the global adoption of our board policies. However, due to many circumstances, we have a new plan of action for this, and hopefully we'll agree as a board that we can, well, it's actually funny. This is under review and action, but Julia, you and I talked about it. Below it says review and discuss is the recommendation. So I think, you know, we can just slide this one through. You want me to hand it over?
Sure, I can get us started and then we can go from there if that sounds good.
Yeah, we were just going to kind of do like the intro of all this.
Great. So good evening, President Davidson and board trustees and Superintendent Dr. Evan Sebio Kim, community, what's left with us this evening and staff. So I'm here around the global adoption regarding our board policies, which I had brought at our last board meeting. We have a slide deck, which we mostly don't need, but I would love to be able to show a couple slides from, is that you or is that Kim? Could you? Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll talk while she brings it up, though. So, you know, process-wise, what the intent had been was to bring, to introduce the topic at our last board meeting, to then have a board workshop to give you time to just delve into the 9,000s and to think about if there are any other policies in the other sections to pull, and then to bring it back for a short discussion at this meeting, and then review and action at the final board meeting. That was the process that we had laid out at our last meeting. And for unforeseen circumstances called life, the board workshop did not happen. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Thanks so much for that, Julie. So what I wanted to do was just to remind us of where we are, what the recommendation was, and be able to have a chance to discuss where we're going from here. And so just again, to kind of bring us up to speed, when Dr. Wells and I had first started this process with CSBA, they were clear with us they were going to work us through this process and then recommended that we bring it, all the policies in one batch job to the, for a global adoption to get us up to a baseline foundation of compliance.
And with the idea that any specific policies that need additional attention, we can always update policies, and we can always grow with policies, both individually and as part of a board policy committee. And so our hope was that after a long year of working through this and waiting from the previous year to even get on CSBA's calendar, that we could at least close out the school year and feel good that the majority of our policies are up to date, in compliance. When people look at them, we can say, yes, they are in compliance with Ed Code. We don't have to cross-check and compare them. But that there may be certain policies, and I think I gave the example before of like our interdistrict transfer policy, that there's just some different thoughts, and I know a number of you have weighed in on, that need more attention. So we wouldn't bring that as part of a global adoption. But that would be one, along with any others that you see that you would want to pull, that we would bring in the next school year when we can delve in and have more time and attention in the way that they deserve. So that is still kind of how I'll say, I'm hoping that we'll be able to follow the path that we started and move forward. And I know we were sidetracked a bit with with how things got derailed with the board workshop. So this is review and discussion. So I think that I would like to stop talking and just open it up for questions, discussion, thoughts.
And we as the board we have this lovely situation where it's technically under review and action, and it says the recommendation is review and discuss. So I think we can kind of discuss and figure out how we want to go forward with this. So it was also recommended that we can now get like a digital copy and kind of see the changes that have been made, and then we could maybe in pairs kind of take some chunk sections and just review them really quickly, look through those, say yay or nay. We can also say we trust CSBA and Executive Director Brill. Let's just adopt to the baseline. We can also say we want to review these over the summer and table this into the next school year. Those are all available options.
Can I say one thing? So yesterday, and I want to acknowledge Julie for putting together these binders, because these binders had all the 9,000 policies in them, in here, and they had the outdated copy as well as what CSBA recommended, and then the new policy for each one of them. And our intention was to go through each one of these, and we had a little worksheet for each one of you to kind of point out what the changes were, and then you were going to report out so that you would know what they were. Now, unfortunately, we did not have that opportunity, but I do want you to know that we do have this wonderful binder available. So I know it's a lot, and many of the changes were, like she said, dates and things and, little things, but we have documented, Julie has told me, she is working on a copy where you actually can see what the changes were on so I guess it's a Word document, and it highlights all the changes so that you can see them. And I guess it's the marked copy. Can you explain that?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. It's like converting all the PDFs into a Microsoft Word document and then comparing the current ones with the clean versions, put them together, and it will show the track changes.
The track changes.
And then if I could piggyback on that, first of all, Images put in an incredible amount of work in supporting this, so thank you for that. I want to note and then preface that the reason that we didn't start with that was also based on CSBA's recommendation that it's just so much to go through and look through, and that was what our workshop time was to do. And so they recommended, they're like, if you bring all it's just too much and you get lost in the weeds. That being said, you're the board and you need to be comfortable with what you're voting on, right? And everybody's going to have a different way of approaching it, and I don't think that's their recommendation. It doesn't mean it's the only way or the right way. So I think, what I know my goal is, and I think Dr. Evans and when Julie and I, we've met, is what do we need to provide to make sure that you have what you need to feel comfortable making whatever decision makes the most sense. And, kind of along with how President Davidson laid out all these different options, you can choose to vote in a global adoption and leave out a whole set of thousands. If you're like the 9,000s, we want to spend more time on that's board policies, you can do it in whatever way makes sense. I think what our goal is to give you what you need to feel comfortable. But that was why we didn't start with that type of copy, was based on CSB's recommendation not to. So.
Okay, so how is everybody feeling? What shall we do?
Please provide us with some direction.
We start with you, Trustee Khan. No, she's like, all right. Trustee Boyd. Okay, Vice President Hopwood.
I would like to see something. I don't feel comfortable just going ahead and adopting it. What Julie mentioned about the track changes, when you sent us something recently to let us know there'd be a clean copy and how that was going to be formatted in the paper version. It wasn't online. I mean, I looked and there was nothing.
What has been provided online so far are the ones that we're putting forth for adoption. And then the other set of PDFs that you were provided was the ones that have our mark changes on them and say either keep the CSBA policy, but it doesn't have the side-by-side comparison the way the binder did.
Exactly, and I think that would be useful, but so there's just one binder in existence. Is that correct, or there's one each?
One each.
At the moment, there's one for each of you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it would be interesting even if we just took a small amount just to get a sense of what kinds of changes.
Sure.
I'm really happy to have something updated because those were dated from 2009, the existing policies. So my priority would be, I don't think we necessarily need to look back at what was wrong with the 15-year-old version.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm assuming it's got to be better and more current, but it would be useful to see an example of the changes, that's all, yeah.
We have that.
I mean, I guess so the current plan would be we're coming up with it now, but if we were to say, to approve like a slate of policies and give people, if we can still do this, give people the chance to poll, interdistrict transfer policy, et cetera, but, would the idea be to approve a slate of policies next week in the meeting if there were ones that people were not concerned about at all and we were just comfortable doing the CSBA, or is there a desired, we're not being asked to do that tonight, right?
So we can, or we can do it next week.
Okay.
The options are.
Not ready to do that tonight.
That's great. So what I'm hearing from two, and you as well, is that basically we want to keep this tonight as a review and discussion. What we would like to do is have the week to kind of at least look through the binders that have been made so we get an idea of what the work was done. And then next week, we'll probably be ready to just say, let's look at a global adoption, a little more discussion. But knowing that if we do a global adoption, we still have the ability at any time to pull policies and work on those within this.
And in addition, in the binder, the other thing that's provided is a stapled packet that has the table of contents for all of the other thousands, zeros, the 1,000s, 2,000s, and so on. Because what that allows you to do is to look through the titles of what the policies are, and you can kind of see if it's something you're like, that's, that feels like something that I'd like to put a little more energy into, and you don't have the time to put the energy in, and that's fine. Just pull it. Anything that you're like, I don't know, you don't even have to jump into it. You can just say, for right now, let's pull it, and when we have time, we'll look into it. So that was the goal of giving you those listed titles. You have all the other policies in depth you can look into, but at least the titles give you that kind of quick look at because a lot of them are just purely just compliance. They're not, they're not going to be kind of meaty controversial pieces, but you can see which ones hit you that way.
I would recommend, for me personally, when I think about what you just said, I would want to at least get us to a base level of as much compliance as we can, but then make notes at the next meeting of look, these are the ones that we are going to say yes, but to, instead of us like kind of focusing on, okay, I'm actually just going to pull huge chunks and not even approve those to base level compliance. Yeah.
Right, and just like we have now, at any time, we can relook at policies. So just because we bring up to compliance doesn't mean that's it, we're done with that policy forever. We can bring it up to compliance and say, and next year, we would like to see the board policy committee focus on this, or we'd like to direct whichever one of us the policy is under to bring back a recommendation. You know, so we can, even after we bring them into compliance, we can still update the policies, and we should. And we're going to need to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Just a question, and I'm sure that you've already answered this, so apologies in advance. But in general, for the bringing the policies up into compliance, is it pretty much, and this might differ by policy because certain things are maybe kind of more AUSD specific versus, you know, but in general, is it kind of safe to say CSBA version that is current was kind of, like changes were made to make our policy the same as that in most instances, or is it kind of like a combining of, you know, sort of AUSD specific things and CSBA?
Yeah, great question. So I think what I would say is generally it was bringing to compliance with the CSBA. The changes that we made, often you'll see are things that are specific to our policies and procedures. Like they'll say, like, if you have a uniform complaint, who do you send it to? And what's that? You know, so we fill out the kind of Albany specific part of it. There were also a few specific times when like pieces were referring to gender equity or things like that, and we kind of take it maybe like a little step farther in terms of being knowledgeable about what language we should be using and that sort of thing. So there were sometimes little tweaks like that that weren't really at the heart of the policy, but we felt more comfortable with certain language, so we might have changed that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was just thinking, since we were going to do the 9,000s, would it be easier to give the board the 9,000 this and have them review it and look at it for next week? And then all the other policies, maybe they could take over the summer and look at them, and we could come back
I think
and do the global adoption?
My understanding was that we're comfortable just getting a sense of what happened by doing the 9,000s, and we're comfortable having everything come before us next week.
With the 9,000?
With all of them.
All of them? Okay.
We just want to get a sense of what was done and the changes with the binders and the work that's already been put into these. I want to be very aware of adding extra work onto our district staff around board policies right now.
Okay.
I don't want to ask Julie to spend a lot of time like putting together a bunch more binders because I think there's other important work that impacts kids as well. So, okay, I also want to be mindful that we are 1 minute in, so we're going to finish this item by taking quick public comment. If there is public comment on this one, we're going to go to 1 minute only because we'd like to adjourn our meeting as close to on time as possible. Seeing no public comment, we are going to adjourn this item, and we are going to do superintendent and board member reports. Does anybody have one?
None.
No?
Everybody, we
No,
all just.
great. We are,
Just the graduations we all went to and.
We're great.
Wonderful. Congrats to class of 2024. That's it.
okay. Any future agenda items? No. This meeting is adjourned. Boom.